1. Inattentional blindness. Imagine you're walking down a busy street. You're looking directly ahead. You can see cars, people, buildings, signs. Everything seems completely normal. But if you're intensely focused on one task, you can completely fail to notice something obvious happening right in front of you. Psychologists call this inattentional blindness. The famous example is the invisible gorilla experiment. Participants were asked to count basketball passes while watching a video. A person wearing a gorilla costume walked through the scene, and a surprisingly large number of people completely failed to notice the gorilla. The important part is that their eyes were functioning normally. The gorilla was visible. The problem was attention. Your brain doesn't process everything around you with equal priority. It constantly decides what deserves your attention and what can be ignored. And that means you can be looking at something without consciously seeing it. So when someone says, "How did you not see that?" the answer may simply be, your brain decided it wasn't important. 2. Your brain fills in things that aren't there. Your vision feels incredibly detailed. It feels like you're constantly seeing the world exactly as it is. But that's not really what happens. Your brain receives incomplete information from your senses and then constructs a usable version of reality. One simple example is your blind spot. There's a small area in each eye where the optic nerve leaves the retina. There are no photoreceptors there, so technically you have a tiny hole in your visual field. But you don't walk around seeing a black dot. Why? Because your brain fills in the missing information using the surrounding visual patterns, and this happens in much more complicated ways too. Your perception isn't simply a camera recording reality, it's more like your brain making its best estimate of what reality probably looks like. Research on visual perception shows just how strongly the brain can construct experiences from incomplete sensory information. So what you see isn't always a perfect recording. It's your brain's interpretation. 3. Your brain can put a song on repeat without your permission. You know that moment when a song gets stuck in your head? You haven't played it. You aren't listening to it. And yet suddenly, that one line starts playing inside your mind. Again, and again, and again. This is known as involuntary musical imagery, commonly called an earworm. Certain songs appear to be especially good at triggering it. Research has found that memorable melodies, repetition, and certain melodic patterns can make songs more likely to become stuck in your head. And here's something even stranger. Your brain can keep replaying musical material even when you're trying to sleep. One study found that persistent nighttime earworms were associated with poorer sleep quality in participants, suggesting that musical memories can continue to be reactivated during the night. So, if you've ever desperately tried to stop thinking about a song, your brain may have done the exact opposite. 4. Your brain makes you forget why you entered a room. You walk into the kitchen, you stop, you look around, and suddenly, what was I doing? This is so common that almost everyone has experienced it. One explanation involves the way your brain organizes events into different contexts. Moving from one location or situation to another can act like a mental boundary. Your previous context becomes less active while your brain begins processing the new environment. And suddenly the intention you had a few seconds ago becomes harder to retrieve. It's not necessarily that the memory disappeared, your brain simply has trouble accessing it. This is also why sometimes walking back to the place where you originally had the thought can suddenly make you remember. Your environment can act as a retrieval cue. So next time you forget why you entered a room, don't panic. Your brain probably didn't delete the thought, it just temporarily lost the file. 5. Your brain can create false memories. Here's where things get seriously strange. You can remember something that never actually happened, and the memory can feel completely real. You might remember where you were. You might remember what someone was wearing. You might even remember what you were feeling. But confidence doesn't guarantee accuracy. Psychologists call these false memories. Memory isn't a perfect recording stored inside your brain. Every time you remember something, you're reconstructing it. And during that reconstruction, details can become distorted, combined with other information, or influenced by later experiences. Research has shown that people can sometimes confidently remember events or details that never actually occurred. This doesn't mean all your memories are fake. Far from it. It means memory is designed less like a video archive and more like a reconstruction system. Your brain cares about making sense of the past, not necessarily reproducing every detail perfectly. 6. Your brain predicts what you're about to experience. Here's something your brain is doing almost constantly: predicting the future. Not years into the future, milliseconds into the future. When someone throws a ball toward you, your brain doesn't wait until the ball reaches your hand before deciding what to do. It predicts where the ball is going. When you're listening to someone speak, your brain predicts what sounds and words are likely to come next. When you're walking, your brain predicts what your body needs to do next. This predictive processing helps your brain deal with an enormous amount of sensory information without consciously analyzing every detail. That's one reason perception can sometimes go wrong. Your brain is constantly comparing incoming information with what it expected to happen. When the two match, everything feels effortless. When they don't, you experience surprise. In a sense, your brain isn't simply asking, "What am I seeing?" It's also asking, "What was I expecting to see?" 7. Pareidolia. Have you ever looked at a cloud and seen a face? Or noticed a face in a wall, a tree, a shadow, or the front of a car? That's called pareidolia. Your brain is extremely good at detecting patterns, especially patterns that might be meaningful. Faces are particularly important because humans have evolved to detect them quickly. The problem is that your pattern detection system doesn't always know when to stop. So two random shapes can become eyes, a shadow can become a person, and a few lines can suddenly look like a familiar face. The object isn't actually changing. Your brain is interpreting ambiguous information. And once you see the pattern, it's surprisingly difficult to unsee it. 8. Mind wandering. You're reading a paragraph. You reach the end and suddenly realize you have absolutely no idea what you just read. Your eyes were moving, but your mind was somewhere else. This is called mind wandering. Instead of staying focused on the task in front of you, your thoughts drift toward memories, plans, worries, fantasies, or completely random subjects. And it happens frequently during activities that don't require intense attention. The strange thing is that you can sometimes spend several minutes inside your own thoughts without realizing you've stopped paying attention to the outside world. Your body continues doing the task, but your mind has quietly left the room. And sometimes that mental wandering can even produce useful ideas. Your brain may connect unrelated memories and concepts while you're not consciously trying to solve anything. So daydreaming isn't necessarily your brain doing nothing. Sometimes it's your brain working in the background. 9. Intrusive thoughts. Have you ever been doing something completely normal when a completely random thought suddenly appears? Imagine if I just... Or an embarrassing memory from 10 years ago. Or a strange image. Or an unwanted idea that makes absolutely no sense. These are often called intrusive thoughts. Minor intrusive thoughts are common and widespread. And here's the important distinction. Having a strange thought doesn't mean you actually want to do it. Your brain produces enormous amounts of mental activity. You don't consciously choose every thought that enters your awareness. The mistake is assuming, "I thought it, therefore it must mean something about me." Not necessarily. Sometimes a thought is simply a thought. Your brain generated it, you noticed it, and then, ideally, you let it pass. 10. Phantom vibration. You reach into your pocket. You swear you felt your phone vibrate. You check it. Nothing. No message. No notification. Nothing happened. This is often referred to as a phantom vibration. It's a fascinating example of how perception isn't simply about detecting external signals. Your brain is constantly interpreting ambiguous sensations. If you're used to receiving notifications, your brain becomes highly sensitive to sensations that might indicate one. A small muscle twitch, fabric moving, pressure against your leg, a tiny vibration from something else. Your brain may interpret the sensation as phone. This illustrates a broader principle. Your expectations can influence how you interpret sensory information. Sometimes your brain doesn't just detect a signal, it asks, what is the most likely explanation for this signal? And occasionally, it guesses wrong. Yeah. Your brain can make time feel completely different. Think about your childhood. Summer vacations seemed endless. A single year felt enormous. But as an adult, months can disappear unbelievably quickly. Monday arrives, then suddenly it's Friday, then somehow it's December. Why does time feel like it's speeding up? There isn't one simple explanation. Our perception of time is influenced by attention, memory, emotion, novelty, and the way experiences are encoded. Novel experiences can create many distinctive memories. Routine experiences may leave fewer memorable landmarks, so when you look backward, a period filled with new experiences can feel much more substantial than a period dominated by repetition. And there's another strange effect. When you're bored, 5 minutes can feel like an eternity. When you're completely absorbed in something, 5 hours can feel like 20 minutes. The clock didn't change. Your brain's experience of time did. 12. Your brain is constantly editing your reality. And this may be the strangest thing your brain does. You probably imagine that you experience the world, and then your brain interprets it. But the process is much more complicated. Your brain is constantly filtering information, predicting what will happen, filling in missing details, ignoring things that don't seem important, searching for patterns, reconstructing memories, generating thoughts, and deciding what reaches your conscious awareness. You don't experience every sound around you. You don't consciously process every object in your visual field. You don't remember every moment of your life. You don't consciously control every decision your body makes. Instead, your brain creates a simplified, usable model of reality, and that model is usually incredibly effective. Because if you consciously processed every tiny detail around you, you'd be overwhelmed. Your brain has to choose. What matters? What doesn't? What's dangerous? What's familiar? What should you remember? What can you ignore? And most of those decisions happen without you noticing. This is why some psychologists describe perception not as a passive recording of reality, but as an active process of interpretation and prediction. Your brain is not simply showing you the world, it's constructing the version of the world that you experience. And most of the time, you never notice that it's doing it. So the next time you forget why you walked into a room, hear a song playing inside your head, see a face in a cloud, miss something directly in front of you, or suddenly remember something from years ago, remember this. Your brain is doing far more work than you can consciously see. And perhaps the strangest thing about the human brain is that the machine creating your experience of reality is mostly hidden from the person experiencing it. If you enjoyed discovering the strange things your brain does without you realizing it, subscribe, because there are hundreds of other things happening inside your mind and body every single day that you've probably never noticed, and some of them are even stranger than these.